when the curtain of night unfurls, in moments where secrets are revealed, the midnight tales begin.
Hello, my name is Yusuf. The time had come for my military service, which I had deferred until I was 25. Thank God I'm healthy and strong. I never had any intention of running away from my duty. You don't run from the defense of your homeland anyway. Back at where I'm from, a man who hasn't done his military service isn't considered worthy of marriage. When I looked at my service papers, the date to report to my unit was December 12th, 2012. The day I was to start my service was the same day the entire world believed, according to the Mayan calendar, the world would end. Of course, nothing happened. My basic training was in Ankara. After my assignment, I went to my permanent unit in Hakkari's Semdinli district. This was a border outpost. There were 8 guard posts around the outpost, and the shifts were changed every 2 hours. After the first few days of getting used to things, I was on my first shift at the farthest guard post of the outpost. It was the 3 a.m. shift, and the surroundings were pitch black. For security reasons, there was to be no light that could expose our position. My rifle in hand, my eyes on the surroundings, my finger on the trigger. Since it was a terror region, we were under the constant threat of a surprise attack. I didn't take my eyes off my designated area for a moment, but I felt as experienced as if I'd been a soldier for years. I knew exactly what to do in any negative situation. We had been trained for it. It's a suit. I had only been on duty for an hour when I saw something in the distance behind the rocks. I immediately aimed my rifle in that direction and waited without moving. It was dark, so I needed to figure out what it was. It could have been a wild animal or even a plastic bag blown by the wind. There was no point in causing a panic for nothing. I waited a bit longer, my eyes fixed on the area behind the rocks. Soon after, a baby appeared from behind the rocks. I couldn't believe my eyes. I rubbed them and looked again to make sure I wasn't seeing things. It was a small baby, at most 2 years old. I lowered my rifle, but then I aimed it again. This could be a trick by the terrorists, I thought. But the small baby just came out from behind one rock and went behind another. It never looked in my direction. After watching it for a while, it disappeared behind a rock in the distance, and I couldn't see it again. My focus was gone and my concentration was broken. Now, in the event of a possible attack, I would only be thinking about that baby. Is that a terrorist, or is it that baby? I would be in doubt. While I was thinking this, the duty sergeant approached me from behind. When he said, "Parola," password, I jumped up so fast from fear that I almost dropped my rifle. The sergeant looked at me in surprise. I quickly composed myself and gave the password and the sign. The sergeant asked, "We've entrusted our lives to you, and this is how you stand guard. Why were you so scared?" I replied, "You'd laugh if I told you what I just saw, Sergeant, but I was very scared." "What happened?" he asked. I said, "I was following a little baby that walked from behind the rocks and disappeared, and then you came." The sergeant looked at me and said, "A baby, huh?" "Yes, Sergeant," I said. Then he started to laugh. "I told you it might sound absurd, but I really saw it with my own eyes," I said. "All right, soldier, don't leave your post. Keep your eyes on the horizon and your finger on the trigger," he said. "Yes, Sergeant," I replied. After the sergeant left, I kept my eyes on the surroundings, but there was no more movement. That night, I went to the barracks, changed my clothes, and went to sleep. I had a dream in the early morning hours. I don't remember exactly how I saw it, but I'm sure I saw that baby. It was looking at me and smiling. When I woke up in the morning, I was still under the effect of the incident, so I told myself it must have gotten into my subconscious, and I didn't pay much attention to the dream. That night, they put me on the 3 to 5 a.m. shift again. Since we were rookies, we were always assigned the night shifts. This time I was at a different guard post. This post looked out over a slope. The area up the slope was my surveillance zone. Again, I was watching my area when I suddenly started hearing a crying sound. I shook my head to make sure I wasn't hearing things. No, I wasn't. Could it have been yesterday's hallucination? The sound stopped for a moment, but then it continued. When the duty corporal came to check on me, I said, "Corporal, I want to ask you something." "Go on, soldier," he said. "Do you hear a sound?" I asked. "No, I don't," he said. I replied, "Okay, I guess there's nothing. My ears must be ringing." The corporal said, "Are you hearing things from fear, son? Are you all right?" I said, "I'm fine, Corporal. Nothing's wrong." He muttered as he walked away. I was still hearing the crying sound. Why was I the only one hearing it? At one point, the sound became so intense that I had to force myself not to abandon my post. The sound continued until my shift was over and I returned to the barracks. I lay down on my bed. Even as I tried to sleep, that crying sound was in my ears. I barely managed to fall asleep. Wait, the next day after the morning inspection, I brought up the topic with some friends I felt close to. "I'm hearing some sounds during the night shifts. Do you guys hear them too?" I asked. One of them said, "I hear some sounds too." "What kind of sounds?" I asked. "Footsteps. It's like someone is walking in the field and I can hear their steps. I wonder if I'm becoming paranoid," he said. I said, "No, not those kinds of sounds." "What do you mean?" he asked. "A baby's cry," I said. They all looked at me and started to laugh. "Son, what would a baby be doing in the middle of these mountains? The nearest village is 4 kilometers away." I was becoming the butt of jokes. First the sergeant, then the corporal, and now my friends. They must have thought I was losing my mind, but I was really seeing and hearing these things. After being on duty for 2 hours during the day, I looked at the duty roster in the evening and saw that I didn't have a night shift. Oh, thank God we got through this day too, I thought. After dinner I went to the barracks, took a shower, shaved, and fell into a deep sleep. However, in the middle of the night, a baby's cry started coming from outside the barracks again. I got out of bed. There was a corridor outside the barracks. When I got to the end of the corridor, I saw the baby. It turned the corner and went outside. I immediately ran after the baby. When I got outside, the baby went under the outpost's fence. I ran toward the fence. Before the baby went behind a rock, it looked at me and smiled. Something inside me snapped. My blood felt like it was boiling. As I was looking at it smiling from behind the fence, someone touched my shoulder from behind. I jumped. It was the corporal watching me. "What are you doing, Kerem? What are you looking at?" he asked. "Corporal, the baby." "Didn't you see the baby?" I said. "What baby, son? Are you crazy?" he said. "No, Corporal. I swear there was a baby. It ran from the barracks toward here," I said. "Go to your bed, son, or you're going to get a good beating, and then you'll see a baby," he said. I immediately went to my bed but couldn't sleep. What was this baby? Was it a hallucination, or was I really going crazy? Well, let's just go to sleep. We'll see what tomorrow brings. The next day, after the inspection, everyone was talking about me. Thanks to the corporal, everyone had heard. Luckily, the officers didn't know yet. Everyone was looking at me weirdly and keeping their distance. That night, they put me on the 5 a.m. shift again, but this time at the farthest post where 2 people were on duty. After chatting a bit with my partner, we focused on our work. I didn't bring up the baby issue at all, but after a while, it appeared again. It was jumping and bouncing, doing mischievous things right in front of me. It was quite cold, but the baby was wearing a thin, tattered sweater. I looked at my partner, and he wasn't seeing anything. The baby was right in front of us. It was impossible for him not to see it. It meant that I was the only one who could see it. After walking around a bit, the baby disappeared without ever looking at us. If I had been alone on this shift, I would have definitely called out to that baby, because this was the first time it had come so close to me. The shift ended, and we returned to the barracks. I decided to write down what I saw that night and what I had seen before in a diary. I immediately started writing down how I saw the baby day by day in the notebook they gave us. It appeared almost every day in some way, and I was the only one in the outpost who could see it. I didn't know if I should be sad or happy about this. About 10 days later, as I was sleeping in my bed, something touched my cheek. Since I was a light sleeper, I immediately woke up. When I opened my eyes, the baby was right in front of me. I wasn't scared of it anymore. It had touched my cheek. I had felt it. It was smiling. When I woke up, it started to run backward. I immediately threw off my blanket and ran after it. It went outside and passed under the fence again, running toward the rocks. A little later, it turned back and looked at me. It felt like it was calling me, and I wanted to follow it. There were fences. They were very close together and had barbed wire. There was a small gap a bit ahead, and I thought I could get through there. I dug up the ground a bit and managed to go under it. I immediately ran to the baby. Just as I was about to reach it, it hid behind a rock. When I got to the rock, the baby was gone. I looked around, but it had vanished. The moment I turned back, a woman appeared in front of me. Her face was bloody and torn, and she had no arm. She looked so horrible that I started screaming. I was running and screaming as loud as I could. Just as I was about to get to the fence, I turned back and she was still standing there looking at me. Suddenly, I found myself in the middle of my friends, who were grabbing me by both arms and shaking me. "You had a nightmare, Karen. You were screaming so loudly that the whole barracks is awake," they said. The corporal also came. "What happened, Karen? Did your baby scare you in your dream?" he said. I was still trembling from fear. It took me a while to calm down. Then one of my friends who was trying to calm me down brought me some water. My hands and the spaces under my fingernails were covered in dirt. I immediately hid my hands between my legs. My friend said, "What's going on, Kerem? The whole outpost is talking about you. Do you want to tell me what you're going through?" I said, "After my shifts, I keep seeing the same baby in my dreams. The baby I see at night is now appearing in real life. I know everyone is talking about me, but I don't know what to do." My friend said, "Maybe we should talk to the commander and have him give you a leave of absence." I replied, "No, if we do that, they'll think I'm faking it to get out of military service. What would happen if I just ignored what I saw for a while?" After everyone went back to their beds, I went to the bathroom to wash my hands. After washing my hands, just as I was about to leave the room, I saw that woman. She suddenly appeared in front of me. My heart was pounding as if it would jump out of my chest. She wasn't doing anything, just looking at me. My legs gave out from fear and I was about to pass out. Suddenly she vanished. Beads of sweat were dripping from my forehead. I lay in my bed, but I couldn't sleep until morning. When I woke up, my bed sheets were soaked. I changed my clothes and went to the inspection. The woman I saw in my dream was on my mind. Besides, my hands being covered in dirt after what I saw in the dream was an impossible thing to explain, or her appearing in the bathroom. Why did she appear in front of me? Was I the one she was after? The next day, everyone who saw me at the outpost was whispering things like, "Don't interact with him too much. You never know with him." Some were even saying, "He's faking it." The incident that night had reached one of our commanders, and he told the outpost commander. Our commander was a lieutenant. He called me to his office. I went and saluted. He asked me why I was behaving this way. I said, "I'm having a hard time adapting here, but I'll get used to it soon, Commander. I have no intention of leaving or running away from here." The commander said, "I'm glad to hear that. I know how difficult our job is, but I want full concentration at your posts and other duty areas." "Yes, Commander," I said, and left. Had to be more careful now. For about a week, I saw the baby a few more times at my posts, and I pretended not to see it. One time it appeared in my dream. It was pointing to a rock in the mountains. It was a place like a rock hollow. A week later, I was sleeping in my bed. I was having another dream. This time, there was a clash with terrorists. I was having this dream due to the psychological pressure of the environment. Just as a terrorist was firing a rocket at the outpost in my dream, the outpost shook with a loud noise. I jumped out of bed. All the soldiers and commanders were shouting, "It's an attack, get to your posts." The voices of everyone were already mixed together. The soldiers at the guard posts had started to fire back. I immediately grabbed my tactical vest and rifle and ran. After grabbing my rifle and a few magazines, I went outside and got into a post. I started firing at the location of the attack. A rocket passed over our heads and hit the outpost. "Everyone be careful," a commander was shouting. Those crazy people would fire a rocket and immediately change their location. In the middle of this clash, the baby appeared and was smiling, playing, jumping and bouncing. It was looking from side to side. "Run! Get out of there!" I started shouting, but it couldn't hear me. Some terrorists started to approach the outpost. They were walking toward where the baby was. I couldn't take it anymore. I jumped out of my post and started running toward the child. My friends who saw me started shouting, "What are you doing? Get down!" A commander from behind me shouted, "Soldier, get down! Get in the post, now!" But I couldn't leave that baby in the middle of that clash. I had put myself out there without even knowing what it was, because it had smiled at me. It had caressed my cheek. Just as I was about to get close to it, I was hit by a bullet in my left leg. It hurt so much that it felt as if a part of my leg had been torn off. While I was waiting for help, the woman I saw in my dream appeared. Her face was still bloody, and she had a very scary look. She grabbed the baby's arm with her one arm and took it away. As she was leaving, the baby turned back and smiled at me again. Then it pointed to a rock with its hand. I approached the rock it had pointed to in my dream. There was a hollow in the rock. I could get inside. I was about to pass out, but this was my last chance to survive. I went into the rock. It was a perfect post. I aimed my rifle outside and started shooting at the terrorists who were approaching the outpost one by one. Some of the terrorists stopped to figure out where the bullets were coming from. I also stopped. Those who haven't done military service don't know this, but at night, the path of a bullet shows where it came from. By waiting a bit, I prevented my location from being revealed. When the bullets from the outpost intensified, I continued my attack. The terrorists thought they were being surrounded from behind, so they retreated and disappeared into the mountains. After a while, I must have passed out. When the sun came up, they finally found me. I remember being carried on a stretcher and put on a helicopter. A commander was saying he lost a lot of blood. When I opened my eyes again, I was in a hospital. After a long surgery and hospital stay, I was able to walk again with physical therapy. My outpost commander visited me at the hospital. "Get well soon," he said. "If you hadn't done that crazy thing, we might have had more casualties. Unfortunately, you have a wound. You're a veteran now," he said. "My medal, Commander," I said. "I will carry it with honor." "Good for you," he said, "but you need to see a psychiatrist." "Why, Commander?" I asked. "The things you went through aren't easy, and I can't send you home like this," he said. I understood. "Yes, Commander," I replied. The next day, I went to see a major who had the words psychiatrist on his door. He asked me to tell him what happened. He asked me why I had thrown myself out there. I guess he had learned all this from my commander. I tried to explain without mentioning the baby, but I guess he had learned that too. "Corporal Erse gave your diary to the doctor." So I told him everything I had seen from the beginning. There was no longer a reason for me to hide the truth. He didn't need to think that I was trying to get out of military service. They were going to send me home anyway. I couldn't be a soldier anymore with this leg. I told him everything about the baby, the woman, my dreams. The commander thought for a long time. He closed the notebook he was holding and looked at me. You know what? 3 years ago, another soldier came to me saying he had seen that baby. I did some research back then. In 1994, your outpost was hit by an attack. At that time, 5 soldiers from that outpost were martyred. The outpost went into a high-level security protocol. Everything passing by, near or far, was considered a threat. At that time, they received intelligence that the outpost would be attacked with a suicide bomber. A woman from a nearby village was raped by terrorists. She walked to the outpost about 4 kilometers with her baby in her arms. When she approached the outpost in an exhausted state, the soldiers who were on high alert fired at her with a rocket launcher, suspecting she was a suicide bomber. The baby, who was thrown from the woman's arms as she was torn apart, fell behind a rock, he said. As the commander was telling me this, my hair stood on end. I was listening to him with deep breaths. It felt as if my heart would jump out of my chest. The commander continued, "You know, that baby was never found again." When I heard this, it felt like I had been shot in the head. That baby, the one who was smiling at me, who was jumping and playing around the outpost, and who came to the barracks and caressed my cheek. Even though almost 20 years had passed, that baby was still running and playing there, in that state. So why did it only appear to that soldier and me? This still remains a mystery. After I retired, every summer I call and talk to the outpost commander there. And in every conversation I ask, has anyone seen a baby wandering around there? The commanders think I've gone crazy, but these events are a reality known only between the military hospital psychiatrist and me. That's all for this story, my friends. Thank you for listening. I love you all very much. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, you can do so and turn on notifications to be updated about my new videos.